Uh, hey all, welcome to the Jamstack session. So basically, I was working as a backend developer at Zoho. I started learning what is Jamstack in general, or wanted to get started with front-end development. I read a book by Netlify team, and it was so inspiring to me. I want to share that journey with you all, guys. So, Jamstack is not something very new to this world. We have been doing it for a long time, but we were now not naming it by back then. Now we are having a beautiful name called as a Jamstack, where we are using a lot of modern build tools to build our websites. Then we are pre-rendering our HTML and pushing it to the CDNs, content delivery networks. So users can interact with those networks and get the HTML page loaded faster. And then we are using APIs for most of the cases to interact with the website. Say for example, when you are going to any blog post in hashnode.com, you will be seeing the content is loaded first, and then asynchronously the comments are getting loaded and the emojis are getting loaded. For the reaction post for that is getting loaded. So those things are currently done via APIs instead of preloading from the server side. So traditionally what happened is we will be having the database at the back, and then we will be having the server, and then maybe cache, and then our users will be interacting these servers. So traditionally, when you are think yourself as an author for a WordPress blog, you will be interacting with the WordPress engine, the server, and then you will be writing the articles from that WordPress engine. It will be going to the MySQL database. Then consider myself as a reader. If I want to read your article, I'll be requesting to your server, and then that server in turn talks to the MySQL database, gets the content, and then it generates the HTML, and then it shares to my browser. The main problem with this type of setup is it was too monolithic and tightly coupled. So migrating from one version to the another version was difficult. We had to take care of a lot of things in terms of security. Say we have to upgrade the MySQL version, then we are using some extensions for our MySQL, for our WordPress, then we are going to upgrade those also. And another main thing what happened was when there are so many huge requests for creating the HTML format, which can be viewable in our browser, is going to take immense time, and we have to vertically scale our system across. Say we have to increase the size of our MySQL database, and then have to increase the memory of our servers, and so on. So those websites were not faster, and it was not giving a good experience to both the authors and also the readers. From readers' point of view, if the website is going to load faster, then we are going to read the content faster, and we are going to move to the next one. So that was the main problem we had. So what is Jamstack for me? So anything where the HTML content is pre-rendered instead of depending on particular server when the user has requested, those websites are called as Jamstack for me. So basically what we do is we take the HTML code before the user comes and requests for the HTML code and keep it at a place, and then when a user requests it, we will be sharing the HTML code either statically or dynamically. So we will be going through 3 examples where we will be having different types of approaches for building a website. So if you get started with the web development, you might be taught how to build a HTML based website. You'll be taught to write the CSS code or JS code. So from my point of view, that is the first interaction everyone had with the Jamstack. What we do there is we write the HTML code in our machine, and then we'll be pushing it or viewing it in our browser. So here I have shared you the example where I have deployed it in the GitHub pages. So what I do here is I write the HTML code in my machine, and then I will be pushing the plain HTML code to the GitHub. In the GitHub, I have enabled the GitHub pages settings. So what GitHub does is it checks whether it is the pure HTML code or whether it has to build something. I mean, build in the sense it has to convert some sort of other file format to the HTML file format. So if it is not going to, if it is going to be a pure static website, then it is going to directly push it to the CDNs. The main advantage with this system is it is much easier to build this particular system and push it to the CDN. And when a user requests that code, it can be pushed from the CDN and it can be viewed there. So the sample website, what I have developed is just a welcome page with for the CityJS conf. So for this particular website, I will be sharing you the HTML code here. So what I have done is I have two HTML files. One is called index.html and another one is called page2.html. So index.html is the first page which runs when I am going to this particular website, and from there I am going to the page2.html. So in the index.html, I have simply written the plain HTML tags, the header tag, head tag, body tag, h1, h3, and div tag. And then the page2.html also similarly I have written the basic HTML tags. So as I mentioned in this slide, I wrote the code in my machine. I pushed it to my GitHub repository. So GitHub checks whether it is a pure static code. So it contains only HTML files and no other things for generating the build. So this pure HTML code is pushed to the CDN. So when I visit the particular website, what happens is it goes to the nearest CDN. Say for example, GitHub has server in India. It goes there and fetches the HTML file. So in our case, index.html file first and view it in my browser. So this is the first interaction each and everyone got started with the Jamstack websites. So what are the pros and cons with this type of websites? From my view, it is very easy to develop, right? We can just write plain HTML code and we can easily find the error if we do anything else. And also, it will be much easier for building smaller websites. Say I'm going to build a website to tell about me or about my team at my office. It is much easier. It is going to have some 4 or 5 pages and little bit of CSS for designing the page. So it is much easier for that. But when it goes to somewhat bigger websites, say for blog, I cannot keep on writing this, copying and pasting the same HTML code at each and every day. Right? So some easy websites can be built using this pre-written HTML code. But when we go to the little bit complex websites, it is going to be a little difficult for us. So here, next what we have is something called as types of rendering. So as I mentioned before, previously everything used to get rendered on the server side. Server side in the sense when the user requests, the HTML code is rendered in the server and it is getting published to the user browser. So this is not in the scope of Jamstack, so we are skipping it now. We have another type of server-side rendering or called static built-time rendering. So what we do is we write .view files. For example, I am using Vue.js. What we do is we write the .view files, and then we will be having a command called npm run dev, and we will be using the webpack. With that, we will be changing the .view files to the HTML file. and then you'll be publishing it to our websites or CDNs. And then we have another type thing called client-side rendering, where we will be changing from one page to the another page or manipulating the DOM using the JavaScript or JavaScript APIs. So these are the three types of rendering. So first rendering, we are going to skip it as it is not part of the Jamstack. We'll be discussing what are these two, static build time rendering and the client rendering, in the later stage. So I have given you the code where we can check it in our Git pod. So Git pod is basically looks like VS Code. So I will share you how the code is there. You can visit this URL and you'll be coming to the Git pod space, and there you can edit the code and try it in your own self. So before the Git pod instance spins up, I will be sharing what are the folder structures we have in our particular demo. So basically, blog post is the folder which is created by me to store the blog post what I am going to write. Say I will be writing each and every blog post in the markdown format, AMD file, and that I will be saving it in the blog post folder. Then I have the second folder called components. So I will be having in our case right now we have something called a postcard component, which we will be reusing it in our index.html page. Maybe at some other pages also we will be using it. So those things, the common code which can be used which can be rendered, I will be keeping it in the components page. And then I will be having the library lib folder basically, where I will be having a utility JavaScript methods. Say I will be comparing the dates, and then I'll be getting all the files from blog post folder. Those little functions, I have kept it inside the JS in the lib folder. And then pages is the important folder in our Next.js application. So I will be discussing it in detail. So here I will be having what are the pages we have to come. So we'll be having index.html page, we'll be having about.html page. So those pages are saved inside the pages folder. And then public will be having the static contents like images, and then maybe we can also have the CSS, but generally we used to have a styles folder and we'll be pushing the CSS there. So yeah. So what I have mentioned, the folder structure, blog post components, libs. So these two are the blog posts which I have written for this demo. And this is the post component which I will be using it. So I can generate the card-like post view. And in utils, I have the methods. I will be explaining what are the methods available in the utils file. And then we have pages and the public sales folder. So up next, I will share in detail what is the pages folder. So inside the pages folder, we have index.html, which translates to index.html page. Sorry, index.js, which translates to index.html page. So index page is the first page which gets loaded when our website gets loaded. After that, I have app.js where this particular application gets loaded. And then there are two folders, API.js and post.js. So in this demo, we are not going to use the API folder. We are going to use the post folders. So basically, what does the API folder means? When you have something website/API/some endpoint. So here I have hello.js. So if my website URL is something like website name API/hello, it will be returning the JSON file format like John Dio. And then I want the post in such a way that my website name /post name. So when I want to have this basic load balancer details, I mean the post, what it comes something like website URL /post / basic hyphen load balancer. That's it. So if you can see it here clearly, you will be having the file name in the square brackets. So when we are enclosing it in the square brackets, basically it means it is a dynamic file. So now for this post, it will be something like basic hyphen offload hyphen balancer.js. For next post, it will be something like proxy hyphen vs reverse proxy.js. So all these things will be having the same template. So we are merging it as a so we are having a single file with dynamic generation. So let's break down this dynamic slug.js file. What it does. So what we are doing here is we are getting first we are going to get what are all the paths we are going to have for this particular blog, and then we are going to return what are the contents we have for each and every blog post. The first method we have, this particular method is given by next.js, and this is also get static properties is also given by next.js. So we have to stick with that. So in this particular method, what we are doing is we are getting all the post path and then we are returning from this particular folder. So this particular method get all post slugs is written by us. So it will be inside the utils file. So in the utils file, first we are reading what are all the posts available in the blog post folder. Then we are just going to remove .md. It is up to you to have the path, dynamic path which you want. So basically, to avoid the collision, what I am doing is what are the file name I have it here. I am reusing for my post path also. So I will be getting all these posts and then I am replacing the .md with the empty string. So the output will be something like basics hyphen of load balancer. And the second one it will be like so when you are going to create another file with the same name, it is not going to allow you. So we won't be having any issue. So we have got the path here and we are going to return it from this particular folder. I mean, sorry, this particular method. Then we are going to send each and every path which you have got here. And then we are going to convert what is the contents we are going to render. Say for example, we have this file called basic load under balancer.md. So we'll be reading this whole file, and then we are using a package from the npm package called gray matter. In that we are going to send the whole file, and it returns it as two formats. So when you have a whole file, let's assume this is the whole file. When you send it to the gray matter package, it will be sending it as a JSON with the two segments. So first segment is the content. So whatever is below the front matter, it will be considered as content, and the above inside these dashed lines, it will be considered as a front matter. We will be getting it here. So we what we have now is we got the content, we got the front matter. So this particular thing title slug is called as front matter. In our sorry, in our blog post we have something called title, cover image, date, and a small description of the post. So we got it here, and we are returning it from this particular method. So once it gets returned, it will be coming to the main function, which is called as post page function. Here we are going to just define how our HTML, how our page should look like. Say, I'm going to have the go back button at the top, and then I'm going to have the title, and then the posted date and the cover image. So the whole content I am just inserting it in the post body class. Sorry, post body class. Yeah. So this is the rendered HTML page which will be getting. So we have mentioned go back at the top. So we have a go back here, and then we have our H1. So our title is here, and then we have something called the posted date. So when you see here, the posted date is there, and then we have the cover image and the post content. So the image is a bit bigger. I have not optimized it, and I have not set the CSS properly. So and then we have the content here. So this is the flow, what happens in the dynamic page. So I will just walk through again. So we have something called as two posts here: basic load balancer and proxy versus reverse proxy. So first thing, we are getting all the paths. So we will be getting the basic hyphen off hyphen load hyphen balancer and the proxy hyphen vs hyphen reverse hyphen proxy. And then for each and every file, what we are getting is we are getting the contents into two different sections. So we are getting front matter. So whatever is inside this dashed lines, we call it as front matter. Sorry, and then the rest of the things are content. After that, from this method, we are sending it for each and every file. We have it here. Then here it comes to the post page, which is the main method. There we are rendering how our page look like, how it should look like. So we have the go back at the top, title, and then so on. So we have basically created each and every blog post which we want, and then we are going to create the index.html. Here what we are doing is, again we are getting, show the post. So again we are getting all the posts, all the files, and from there again we are reading, we are getting the front matter. From that, we are comparing what are two dates, and we are returning the post based on the descending order of the date creation. So if you go back here, this is the post which is created at the latest, and then it was created earlier. So based on the descending order, we are getting the post here. So one of the main thing what I am doing here is, each and every box which you see here is a postcard component. So I have written it as a post here. When you take a look at the components, I have post.js. There I have mentioned what are the contents we should get here. So when you see here, we are sending the contents post. So we have front matter here and slug here. So we are returning it here to this method, and then in post components page, what we are getting is the JSON object with the front matter and the slug. We are just creating a div here, and we are just pushing it as a index.html file. The same thing can be written it in the index.html file also, but it is better to have the code segregated. So this is the process what we are doing, and then basically what happens is we have something called package.json. So package.json is here. What we do is whenever we want to build the website, we do it as npm run dev. So here we have mentioned what we have to do when the run method is invoked. I mean dev method is invoked. We are internally building the next dev method. So similarly, we have something called as a build method. These are the two things we'll be using mostly. So when it comes to the build method, we are internally calling the next.js build method, and the next.js knew what are the files available here. I mean the structure available here, and it will be generating the final build which has to be deployed. So I will go to the Vercel. So I have already logged into my Vercel using the GitHub. So when I go to my projects, it has already pulled all my GitHub repositories. So this particular example, what I am using is in the JSConf next block. So I write it as 3 and just click deploy. It will be internally calling the npm run build method, which creates the next build method, which internally calls the next build method. So, okay. So it will take a couple of minutes to get deployed in the Vercel. So until then we will check what are the things we are happening here. So what I do here right now is I write my markdown files alone. So the markdown files is .md files, which is under the blog post. I write my markdown files. I push it to my GitHub. So internally, when I push it to my GitHub, Vercel either by GitHub triage or Vercel pull way, the build is triggered. So once the build, when the changes are done, the build gets triggered. So when the build gets triggered, it runs the npm run build, which runs the next run build. I mean next build. So once the build is done, Vercel push to its CDN. Vercel will be having a lot of CDN. So around 170 nodes or something are there. I'm not sure the exact numbers. So it pushes to the CDN. There, when the article writer, I mean viewer, wants to see the article, when they open it in their website, it will be fetching from the CDN and it will be rendered in their website. So what is the advantage we have? Here we are not going to render the page each and every time whenever a user requests. Previously, when we are doing it in the WordPress, the traditional WordPress, whenever a user requests, it will be regenerating again and again. So the amount of machine capacity which needed now is minimized. So basically, the Vercel should be having the high power machine to create the build, and the CDNs basically save the plain file which can be sent normally without any processing. So it can also be a slightly lower version one. So all the request goes to the CDNs instead of going to the GitHub where the source is present. Previously, if there is any bug in the WordPress engine, what happens is the database can also be corrupted. So now we don't know whether it is hosted in the GitHub or it can be in the GitLab or it can be anywhere, any content management system. So the attack of the source is reduced, and then the time the page gets served is faster. So due to this pre-rendering logic, we are able to serve resources and also the time and give the better experience to our readers. So these type of pre-rendering, I mean during the build time pre-rendering and pushing it to the CDNs are mostly used for systems like the blogs or where the websites are heavily dependent on SEO. Say if you are going to have a website something like Facebook, we are not going to use these things. Maybe for certain parts we'll be using, but not for all the parts. So yeah. So it got deployed. So this is the Vercel deployed website of ours. So basically what we are doing is we were writing our code in the Git pod and then we are pushing it. I have integrated my Git pod and GitHub. I was pushing it to my GitHub and then I was deploying it to my Vercel account. So this is easier to get started basically. So next, so when we are building the complex SaaS-based applications, say we have something called as Zoho Forms, for example, one of my favorite product, but I don't work there. So we have something called as Zoho Forms, or even we can take an example for Facebook. So for the Facebook, what they can do is they will be generating whole HTML during the build time. But when you go to the feed, it is not going to be static, right? So the same feed what I am seeing is not going to be seen by my friends. I will be having different set of friends also. My friends will be having different set of friends. So what they do is they build a whole HTML, CSS, and JS, pre-render it and push it to the CDN. Whenever a user visits to that pages, the HTML gets downloaded, and repetitively CSS and JS gets downloaded. So when the JS comes in, it knew for this particular click or page, we have to fetch some data. So at that time, some feed API will be pulled from the Facebook server and displayed in your machine, I mean in your browser. So by this way, again, we are not going to recreate the HTML again and again when the user is going to request our services. So it is also to some extent effectively reducing our load in the app servers. So yeah. So this can be used. The build time plus API data fetching can be used in the complex websites or SaaS business generally. So most of the things we don't do the SEO, right? Say for a blog post, we want it to come to the Google search, but when it comes to the dashboard of our spending, it is our private data. We don't want to commit to the Google search. So those type of things can be built here. So I would strongly suggest you guys to check out this Jamstack book by Netlify team. I was basically a backend developer, but now whatever website I see, say for example hashnode.com, and there were a startup called peerlist.com. So whatever website I see nowadays, I tend to think in a Jamstack way. So it breaks down any complexity of building a website or a SaaS business. And then I have also given the source code of the 2 examples we have used. So you can check it out there. Okay. So, yeah, do we have any questions?